My name is Kyle Davis, and I'm going to be giving the webinar here on formulating Spreadsheet Link, and I'm one of the technical specialists here. I also do the support side, so welcome. All right. So what in the session here, we're going to be covering just some of the things that you can do with the CTC tool Spreadsheet Link in the regards of creating some formulas that you can then apply back to your Revit model and then update them later when you need to. You know, things change in the model. You know, so they're constantly updating and going through that. And Revit does have a lot of some of the functionality to be able to do some of the stuff, you know, automations, and when you make a change, something else applies. But you are limited with some of the formulas and calculations you can do. For example, you know, having one parameter look up another parameter or multiple parameters at the same time. Yes, in a schedule you can create calculated values, but then doing those as a, you know, in a parameter to tag it, you have some of those issues like that. So that's what I'm going to be covering here, is the ability to do the formulas within Spreadsheet Link. So this has a lot of the functionality like in Excel, like the Excel formulas you can do. There's a lot of those formulas. However, there are some limitations with some of those Excel formulas that may not be supported within Spreadsheet Link because of just the complexity or what's required in Excel to be able to do that may not be supported in Spreadsheet Link. But again, a lot of the formulas, your lookups, your equals, and your if statements, ands, ors, they will work. So we're going to cover a few of those, and if you have any questions as we go through, I am going to try to save most of the time toward the end, but if I see a particular question as I go through, I will see if I can answer it then at that time too. All right, so the first thing with Spreadsheet Link, for those that may not have used it, I'm just going to give a brief description of it. We're going to go through those, and then also the formula portions. So with Spreadsheet Link, the first portion of it is when you launch the tool, you get the Spreadsheet Link Settings. And in the Spreadsheet Link Settings, you're allowed to pick your category, you're allowed to pick your schedules that you want to grab, and you can also pick the types, you know, for your family types. And then you can sort those by at the bottom. There is a little drop-down option. Oops. There will be a little drop-down option that allows you to pick between categories, schedules, and types. And then once you pick that, you'd be able to then pick your category that you want to use, and then you could pick the parameters that you want to associate with this. And then also there would be the ability to create filters and also sorting. So for those that have not seen it, let's quickly just jump into Revit and kind of show this. So when I go into the CTC tab, Spreadsheet Link, there will be the Spreadsheet Link Settings and the Spreadsheet Link Excel formula or spreadsheet portion of it. So this is where I was mentioning that I can come in here and grab a category, double click on it, or select it and click the little arrow to add it over. And then once it's added over, you will see a list of available fields. I might be in the wrong file here. Yep. So it didn't have any rooms in that particular file, so it basically found none. But in this other file, if I grab rooms, it will have the parameters show up. So you do have to have at least one parameter, one value element placed. So in the case of this one, when I grabbed rooms, you have to have one room placed at least. Then all the fields show up. Also, one of the key features is that when you open this tool, you do have to have the project saved in order to do it. So that's one requirement, is that you save the project. So if you do open a detach from central file, save the file, and then you'd be able to get into the tool and continue on. So just wanted to mention that one. So once again, grab the rooms or whatever category you choose, and then you get to pick from the list of parameters. Now, the nice thing about this is that the tool is actually going behind the scenes, and it's actually able to grab parameters that you do not have access to, you know, out of the box. So when you open up a schedule, you're going to see that a lot of the parameters in this list are not in the schedule, you know, as a parameter you can schedule, such as bounding box and calculating, you know, things like the coordinations of it. You don't have access to those in the front end, so you can't see those. But the tool can go after them. It knows where it is. So it's a nice feature to be able to do that. And then you have the filters that you can come in here and start filtering by any of the parameters that you want, such as phase created, phase demolished, phase existing, primary options, design options. And then you can come down here and start filtering by any of the parameters to narrow down what you're looking for. And then the sorting, you can pick by any of the parameters that you've grabbed. Now here I have none, that's because I didn't grab any parameters, but if I want over here and, you know, for grab like name and number, I can then come over here and say sort by number. And then this list will populate by that. So if I say descending, you're gonna see the highest number first, go down to the lowest number. Also over here, this is where I mentioned that you can pick what type of element you want to go after. So categories is going to show you a list of all the Revit categories you can go from. Types is going to go after the types of objects. So if I come in here and I want to grab like door types, it's going to go find all the door types. So I only have a few door types in here, but this allows you to then go after type parameters for the object. So in this case, I do have the type name. It allows me to, I can come in here and change the type name and apply it back to Revit. And I'll get into this one here in a little bit with formulas, one of the things that you can also do. So then you can also grab schedules. And with schedules, it allows you to, when you pick a schedule that you already have pre-built into the model, it automatically goes after all the parameters that are in that schedule. So in this case, it went after all the room category and grabbed all the parameters that were in my schedule. And this is important when you're going after one of these types. It's important when we get into talking about one of the next settings with the saved settings, you have this categories or types or schedules memorized of what you're going after. And if I want to, if I double click on one that's already in here, it will remove it from the list. And then when you do, again, add multiple elements to a spreadsheet, you will see another tab appear at the bottom of the settings over here. So you can go back and forth. If you're wanting these as one single spreadsheet, this will be the way to go, is where you come in here and you can select all your categories. Then you can actually save this out to Excel and open it in Excel to do any kind of modifying there. And if you do this, it will save as one spreadsheet or one worksheet with multiples, or one spreadsheet with multiple worksheets in it. So rooms and doors will be in this one if I was to save this out. So that is the Spreadsheet Link Settings portion of it, where you're allowed to pick the categories and parameters you want to go after in sorting and filtering. The next thing is to go over in general is the calculate check mark. When you're grabbing your spreadsheet settings and you're going through and picking the parameters, there will be a little checkbox that will appear next to the parameter. And this one, if you check the box next to that particular parameter, that is a parameter that's going to again be given a formula to do something. You know, multiple formulas that you can do. If it is unchecked, it is again a parameter that is not being calculated. It's just being pulled from Revit directly. Whereas if you check the value, you can then enter your formula to then apply that back to Revit. Now, one key thing with this, and we'll get into it when we get into Revit, is when you do this calculate value thing, it's very important then that you save your settings. We'll get into that a little bit more with save settings, but it is important that you save your settings, because when Spreadsheet Link is applying the values back to Revit, it doesn't apply the formula. That's not something that's possible to do in Revit in the regards of having a parameter have a formula so that it will update automatically in a value. So instead, Spreadsheet Link is applying the value of the formula, so it's supplying the final result of the formula to Revit to enter into the value of the object. Then, if things change, you can go back into Spreadsheet Link, load your settings, and the formula will automatically update if any data has changed within the Revit file, and then you simply apply it back to Revit. So it's a two-step process where once you get the formula, you save your settings, and then you can load those later when things have changed in the project. There is also an option that when you're doing formulas, you may have to check the option of hide unit symbol. And that'll be in the Spreadsheet Link Settings window where you check the box of hide unit symbol. And why this is important is because the way that Spreadsheet Link is, since it's a spreadsheet, it includes the units that you're grabbing. So in the case of area, which is what I have in this one, it will grab square feet or square inches or yards or centimeters, whatever you choose for the unit. Then if you're doing a formula where it pulls in a number instead of the square foot, it's going to include the unit still, so it's going to try to do that, and you may get the value error within the formula, because it can't interpret it, doesn't know how to change it. So as soon as you check that unit symbol, it puts it in as just numbers, and then you're able to do stuff like calculate square footage by an occupancy load and get a value. So let's cover that. So within Spreadsheet Link, if I, for example, I'm going to do the square footage of a room here and get the occupancy load. So I'm going to grab the category for rooms, area, and then I'm going to grab the parameters for occupancy and occupancy load factor. So once I grab those over here in the spreadsheet window, I could see my values here. I'm going to push actually occupancy load up one. I prefer to have it be right next to each other instead of having it jump cells. It's kind of nice and easy to get it to be right next to each other. And then under occupancy, I'm going to hit the check mark that this is a calculated value. Now, I'm going to show you what it's going to look like if you do the keep the hide unit symbol unchecked. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to create a formula. I'm going to say equals this cell divided by this cell. When I hit enter, I get value. The reason for that is because this is square feet and this is just a number that it's pulling. So this cell does not know what to do with this one. Now there are other ways in Excel, like for example, if I do parentheses around this, parentheses around the first portion of the formula, and then do something like divided by 1 square foot, it might come up with an option to do so. However, in this particular one, that Spreadsheet Link doesn't have that as an option to do. So you can see here when I say divide by 1 square foot, it's not working. Or if I even say divided by 1, it doesn't know what to do. So that's when we come back to the hide unit symbol. So if I come over here and say this divided by this, now if I uncheck this, it is going to say, hey, it's going to reset this. Yes, that's fine. But now if I come back and say equals this divided by this and hit enter, I get a value. And that's because now this has been translated to a number versus square feet. So it knows what the unit is. So it's a common unit. Now in this particular example, there is this option here that I have 1.96. So 1.96 is I cannot have 0.96 of a person. So I have to increase that or go down, either one. So what you can do is if you have the formulas, there is one called round up. So I type in round up, then I put the parenthesis, open parenthesis, and then the formula that I want, and then I got to do comma, and then I got to give it a decimal place. So if I wanted to round to the first decimal place, the second decimal place, or so on, or if I just wanted to round up to the nearest whole value, I put in 0, because I want it to be no decimal places, and then I close it off. Nope, oh, I did that in the wrong field. I apologize. You're supposed to do that in the very first field, not the second field, because the first one automatically applies to all of them. So now if I say round up, comma 0, open and close parentheses, you can see here now it says 26, 2, 63, and so on. So it doesn't, again, it's that first cell that you want to update, which is actually the 4th cell in the thing, not the rest of them, because this one just automatically applies the same formula, and you can see here it updates based on the value here. So it goes up in the cell. And then once I have this set, I can simply come up here and say apply active worksheet. Apply it back to Revit. And it says now here 68 elements were updated. Now if I close out and come back into the model here, I'm going to show you that if I select a room, I'm going to go select one of the offices up here. If I select the host, over here in the properties, it gives me that occupancy. So it shows me that there is now an occupancy in there, and I have that value. Now, as I mentioned, it's placing the value. So here it's just saying 2. It doesn't put in the equals and that sort of stuff. Now, if I was coming in here later in the design and I wanted to change the size of the room, let's say I grab the wall and I pull it way over here. So now the square footage of this room is now different. So it's now bigger room, has a different square footage, which could allow more people in there. However, the occupancy still says 2. And that's because it's not grabbing the formula, it's just grabbing the value. So then I can go back into Spreadsheet Link and update that formula. Now that if I'm doing it this way, however, you're going to notice I have to pick my category and pick my parameters again. And then I got to come back over here and check this box, come back over here and put in the formula again. Round up equals this divided by this cell, 0 decimal places, and go. Oop, forgot the unit symbol. Uncheck it and put it in one more time. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply it back to Revit. 2 elements were updated. And the reason why there's 2 elements is because this room got bigger and this room got smaller. This overall big room here got a little bit smaller, so that's why it updated. So now if I select this one, it has a new value of 3. But you can see how long that took to go in there, create that formula, and then applied it. And now I have updates to the model, and now I have to go back in there and apply it again. So that's where the saved settings come into play. Oh, my slide got here messed up. So I'll just show this here is the save settings. And the save settings is the ability to create something in the Spreadsheet Link where then you can apply it back to the model pretty quickly and don't have to waste time grabbing all the information again. So if I come in here and say rooms, and then I'm going to come down here to the occupancy, load factor, and occupancy, hide unit symbol. I'm going to check the box, and then I'm going to put in my formula. So the very first time you do have to do the process of going through, picking the parameters you want, and putting in the formula and specifying all of its information to do that. So now I got this all set up. So I got simply just the area, occupancy load, and then the occupancy with my formula. Then within the Spreadsheet Link Settings window, I have the option to save the settings. So when I click this, you get the three options. There are two primary ones, or the to file and to project. If you say to file, you are saving an external file where you can come in here and save it to wherever you want to go. You know, you can save it to a common location, you can save it to a server, you can save it to your hard drive, wherever you want. If multiple people are going to be able need access to this to then be able to update the formulas when they want to, you would need it to be in a common location as well for them. Now here I already saved one, so I was going to show that when I hit save here, it would save to another one here. So I'm just going to say room occ again, and then just say save. So now I have two of them, but I'm going to use the other one as well, because then what I can do later is if I come in here and I close this out, I lost that information. Now if I didn't save the settings, I have to do it again. So I'd have to come back in here and redo the formulas, redo all the parameters. However, if I've already saved it, then I can say load settings and choose from where I saved it. Under the save settings, when you are saving to a file, it is an external file. However, if you say save to project, the settings go with the project. So it's going to travel wherever that project goes. These settings will go with it. So it's going to be, anyone that opens the file and has Spreadsheet Link, they're going to be able to grab the settings. But here I'm going to load my settings again that I already did, and say open. And now the tool is going to then go grab the category, grab all the parameters that I did, and then if I come back over here, I could see my spreadsheet window. If I pull it over, this parameter has the same formula already. Now this is the one I did before that I prepared for this, that I also had department in here, name and also number. So if I wanted to do a more complicated formula, I could do that. And that's what I wanted to show here, was the ability to do, again, more complicated formulas. So for example, I'm going to come in here and say like department, and I want to say that this is an office. Let's say this is a kitchen and this is a bathroom, just for those two. And then in my formula, if I wanted to do, kind of a fun lookup type of thing where I say, hey, look at this element, and then if it's a certain value, do this, that sort of thing. So what I was going to do here was I'm going to say something for this one, because the occupancy is just going to be simply this divided by this. But let's say I want to make the occupancy load factor also have a formula that changes this number here as well. So I can say something like equals if this equals office, then be 100. Otherwise, if this, oops, I got to put the other if in there, if, because so it's an embedded if statement. If E4 equals kitchen, I'm going to have you be 50. Otherwise, if this equals bathroom, 2, let's say. Otherwise, 100, or any other value. So now I got to close this off with multiple formulas or multiple parameters there. Now, for some reason, my bathroom one didn't pick up, and I don't know if I'm not missing another. Yep, no, I'm not missing a formula here. So yeah, for some reason, if it's not picking it up, it's not picking up the 2 here. So it's the name, or I'm missing something else in here. So it's not picking up that one. So I'm just going to come back and let's just say, equals 25. There we go. Oh, I see someone posted in the thing for my formula for the kitchen had a missing an if at the end of it. So thank you for that. But yes, so here I did a formula that says basically look this up. If it equals an office, pull over here. So now if I come over here and say office, you'll see that that number changed, which then could change this number. Let's say this is going to be a bathroom. So it now changes it to 25. This one's going to be an office. Let's say these are multiple going to be an office. So I can grab in here and just kind of stretch these down and say these are all offices. And then let's say that this one's going to be a couple bathrooms, and then this is going to be a kitchen, and so on. So I can come in here and just start just making these in here. Oh, copy. Oh, oops. That's interesting. Okay, there we go. And I'll just make the rest of them offices. So, and notice here I am being able to do the drag feature, which is really nice to be able to just quickly run through those all. So now I'm going to save the settings again because I want to keep this here. So I'm going to grab that and say save, and now you're going to replace it. And now if I'm going to apply this back to Revit, and it's going to update not only the department, but it's also going to update the occupancy load and the occupancy value. So here 68 elements are changed. So now if I close out, I'm going to select this room here, say select host. You can see it now says office here. Then again, if I wanted to come in and let's say I'm now making that room much, much bigger, and then I can come back into Spreadsheet Link and update the value. So this is a really important one for saving the settings so that you can apply those back to Revit fairly quickly. So here, my schedule updated. So now there might be another one in here that's a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to go simply apply just to see what, so here 2 elements have changed. So I want to see what the value is for that particular room. So now if I close it here, it's now 7. So it got bigger. Then if I come in here and update the formula here and make it something else or change the value manually in Revit, Spreadsheet Link will then be able to pick that up and apply the formula. Now, some of the other formulas and options with the settings that you can do is really nice to be able to do, again, multiple types of formulas. For example, one of them that I have here is like door rough width. And what I did for this one is I simply went into the settings and I said that I wanted to create a formula that looks up the width and height of the door, and then it automatically calculates what the rough width and height will be. Now, I will admit that if your families are built in a certain way, this could already be done in the family. I would recommend it, but I just wanted to have some fun with this one. So I just basically made a simple one that said rough width and rough height. And the formula basically just says equals C4 plus 1/4 inch. And that's when it pulled back the value here. Now, if I wanted to update this and do a bigger formula that says, update this based on the width, but also add, 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch, or if it's based on another parameter, that adds more. So if it's a egress door, add 0.5. If it's an interior door, add 0.25. So it allows you to do multiple types of formulas. It just depends on if you know how to do those calculated values. Another option, as a sample one I've done here, is door numbering. This one is a fun one because I know there's options in Revit that you can do to grab the room number and have it be pulled back. There's also in the CTC tool, there is a renumbering tool that allows you to grab the room number and pull it in. But Spreadsheet Link is also a formula driven thing that allows you to do something similar. So what I did here is, I'm going to close the settings. You'll see the settings is already taking it, but I wanted to actually show that my room numbers are not matching. So here I got this one, it says it's 112, this is 9, this one's 119, and so on. So the doors are currently not numbering the same. But if I use the formula that I did here, I'll show you what that is. So originally when I came in here, I just grabbed the doors, I grabbed the parameter room and the parameter mark. Now, however, in the back end of Revit, it does not break up the room name and room number as two separate values. So even if I said 2 room, you can see here it pulled over both of them, or the from room. So it's not one parameter for each of them. It's one parameter for both. So it says here room 100. So what I did with this is I went in and I created a formula that looks at this parameter and it finds the first space from the right. So it looks at this formula and trim to the right, and then substitute C4, which is this one, and then put the space in here, and then replace with the space, and then there's some numbers here. And it looks at this column, this row, and then it looks at the very right-hand side of it, and then it goes until the first space it finds. Once it finds that space, it pulls it back. So here it says 100 because the room is 100. So now if I apply this formula and if this values back to Revit, it's going to update them. Now here it's saying duplicate marks because I have some rooms that have 2 doors and 1. So you're going to get that with this one. That's why I like the renumbering tool better, because it doesn't have that. But now if I close out, you'll see all my door numbers match. So there might be a method or formula I could do, or lookups if the door number is already in use, but that would take a little bit of time to go through that, but it would be a nice formula to be able to do. So you can see here again, all my numbers has changed. Now, so there is an option that, if I come over here now and I'm going to say this is going to be 1007, and this is going to be 1008. Now, there is a base formula which you could do for this, and I just simply, I did the longer one, but I wanted to show what the shorter one could be. But in the scenarios, it would have to be not the best one to do. So, because when I came over here, I did put in this longer one, but you could simply just say to the right of this one, and then I think you had to do comma, and then how many spaces. So if I say 3, it's going to pull back up to the 3rd value over. But when I get to the bigger numbers, like this one, you can see here now it's 007 and 008. So now if I wanted to do that one, I could say, okay, we'll update that to 4 digits. Well, now this one has the 4 digits, but then all the rest of them have a space in there. So that is not the recommended one to do because of that. So that's why I did the, oops, I was accidentally hit save. So I'm going to load. Do you want to continue? Yes. That's why I did the longer formula that basically looks for that and pulls back up to the first space. So you can see here, this one pulling the first space there. And then I apply it back to Revit. So the ability to do all these formulas is very handy to be able to update values based on multiple things at once, and multiple formulas, look up over here, jump over here, things like that. So now, one of the other fun ones I decided to do for this webinar is the show for some of the BIM managers that are looking in a project and they want to know what's on what work set and that type of thing. Now, I know Revit has the ability to say, display work sets and see all that stuff, but it allows you to, view it in a kind of visual way. Whereas you can't assign this to a parameter necessarily and make sure it's right or not. So let's say this is on the wrong work set. I may not know that. So there is the color coding here However, what I did for fun in this one is I created a project parameter called wrong work set, or I was going to make it say, maybe it says something like a check work set. Then I checked all the values in here for that. Then in Spreadsheet Link, I created a formula that if a particular category does not equal something to update it. So if I'm going to load the settings here for this, I'm going to grab the room settings. And what I did was I came in here and I grabbed the parameter work sets, and then I grabbed the parameter that I made called wrong work set or check work set. And then I created a formula that basically looks up the work set area, and if it equals a particular value or not, do something with it. So I did this formula here that says if C4 and then it's greater than and less than brackets right next to each other, which means does not equal. So C4, if C4 does not equal room and area, put in wrong work set. Otherwise, put in correct. So you can see some of these are pulling back correct. Some of these are putting back incorrect because the work set is currently incorrect. And then I can apply this to Revit, and it'll update those objects. So then I can create a formula or a filter in Revit that will actually color code those in a particular view for me, and I would be able to then change them. So it's kind of the cool ability to then find out what's on the wrong work set or not. And I did that same thing in another model over here, that this is the furniture model. So I did something similar where I came in and I created a formula for furniture that if the furniture is not on the correct work set, do this. But for this save settings, I did two things. I did two different categories. So I did furniture category and furniture systems category, and did the same formula that if the furniture is not on a particular work set, to put in a value of incorrect work set. And so this one had multiple tabs that I was doing this with. So I'm able to do this checker with multiple categories with the same settings. So if I go to furniture here, you can see most of them are correct, but there are a few incorrect here. And if I go to furniture systems, same thing. If I scroll through here, most are correct, but a few of them are incorrect because they're on the wrong work set. And so if I had this parameters here and I went through and I chose a bunch of categories and applied the same formula, or slightly different variances if they're on one work set versus another, save those settings and you can apply it back to Revit really quickly with multiple categories. So very super handy to be able to do that in one go versus having to do it with each category individually, that type of thing. Okay, now one other last part with the ability to do these formulas and saved settings is, even though I've been doing this fairly quickly, being able to go into Spreadsheet Link, load the settings, and apply them back to Revit, it still takes a little bit of time to wait for Spreadsheet Link to do its thing of loading the category and applying it. So the next one would be the ability to just say Spreadsheet Link Express. So this particular tool is designed to work with Spreadsheet Link, but all it simply does is load settings and apply them. So if I come in here and say load settings, furniture, and then just simply say apply. So in the back end, Spreadsheet Link is going to actually do the same thing where it looks at all those elements, looks at the formula that's in my save settings, and it pushes the value back to your Revit. So instead of having to wait for Spreadsheet Link to open, wait for Spreadsheet Link to load all the settings, and then apply it back to the model, It's a little faster in the regards that it's just a couple of clicks versus 5 or 6, where, loading and stuff like that. So it still takes a little bit of time to load the settings and apply it back in, depending on how many elements you had in the model. So in this case, I had quite a bit of furniture, so it is going to take that length of time, but it saves me still a couple of minutes versus waiting for Spreadsheet Link to open, loading settings, and all that. Oh, I forgot I had this as a group. So, that was not a good example of furniture and loading a formula to them because of the group. So that would be recommended to not do that. So as a kind of concluding here, some of the big key things, formulas, is you just want to make sure that you specify the starts with the equals and then the formula that you want to do. So again, the formulas is up to you. There is so much you can do with these, the lookups, the VLOOKUPs, this cell versus this cell, and the ifs and statements. There are so many values that you can do. And we talked about the load settings and save settings, where you can create a parameter and be able to apply those back to Revit fairly quickly by loading them and saving them and loading them back in. We also talked about Spreadsheet Link Express, which allows you to simply just grab the settings and apply them back to Revit much quicker than waiting for Spreadsheet Link to open and applying them back to Revit. You can just do it faster with Spreadsheet Link. All right, thank you for your time here with the webinar, and I'm thanking for joining. So the Spreadsheet Link is, I got a question here, is that is it a part of the Autodesk family or is it a third-party software? This is a third-party software made by CTC Software that ATG is the reseller for. So this is in the BIM project suite of the CTC software tools. So if you have any questions on that and you want to see a demo or go over the entire thing, please contact your sales rep and they can schedule a demo to go over that with you. Otherwise, you can sign up for a free trial for 14 days. You can just go to atg.com, atgusa.com, and there will be an option to click on CTC products and do a trial. Another question is this part of Toolbar sold separately or buy as a bundle? Currently, it is all buy as a bundle. When you buy the BIM project suite, it comes with all these tools in the dark green as well as here in the light green. They're all sold as a suite. They're not sold separately. And I hope you all have a great day.